Welcome to the one about Black Widow. Before I get into the video, I'm gonna speed run through life changes. If you haven't been around in a while, I have moved, clearly. This is my streaming setup. If you want to catch me on Twitch, I'm there often. Don't have specific days. I recently got LASIK eye surgery, so these are my brand new eyes. They have laser function. I can shoot you dead with one look. Before we get started, this is gonna be full of spoilers. I don't really have a spoiler-free thing to say to you other than it's great, love it, go see it. Thank you. I don't know if you can tell with the everything about me, but I thoroughly loved that movie. I went and saw it twice because I would go in the middle of the day when tickets are like $5. And that movie just possessed me in a way that a movie hasn't in a very long time. Let's get started on the pros, things that I really loved about it, which is most things. But first and foremost, obviously, directed by a woman. I will not elaborate. Should it have been made a long time ago? Yes, Nat's character deserved it. But if it was made sooner, we wouldn't have had the director and the cast that we did, which is what made the movie. So I guess it's all in God's timing. Can I get an amen? The movie starts off very haunting with a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. Having a female voice singing that over a montage of human trafficking, mostly young girls being trafficked. There's imagery of that / men that the girls are either trained to assassinate or men that were involved in the kidnapping and selling of these girls into slavery. The beginning montage isn't so much to tell a story, but just to set a tone. This is what you're going into. And while Marvel likes to have fun and make little jokes and have fun characters, this specific movie did not want you to forget what the point was, which is to have some kind of commentary on human trafficking. And speaking of the beginning, incredible casting for the children. Not only is it believable that those are actually younger versions of Nat and Yelena, but both did a great job in their role, of course. And the scene of Nat pulling the gun in order to protect Yelena, I couldn't imagine anything better. I don't think that could have been any better done. That was a perfect performance. Definitely something you could see young Natasha doing. And I like that Natasha was given the protector role over Yelena when later Yelena is the one attacking Natasha. Once again, I want to touch on the theme of human trafficking. There's no looking past it. They make it the focal point of the movie, of the plot. Sure, I mean, it's about Nat and it's introducing Yelena and it's her little side quest that she had after Civil War, but it's them taking down a massive trafficking ring.
I should have elaborated more. So when I mean the commentary on sex trafficking, specifically as it relates to Black Widow, is the need to stay hypervigilant when it comes to looking for victims and looking for trafficking rings. So for example, Natasha let her guard down because she thought she had taken care of it. She thought she got rid of Dreykov and his daughter, but he was able to survive that and then also find a more creative way to grow the ring and find victims. And I think a big part of the commentary is to stay vigilant, to stay hyper vigilant, that we're never really going to eradicate it because unfortunately slavery has been something that's existed as long as humans have. You always have to try to stay ahead because people who are hellbound to do these kinds of things are just going to get more creative if we let our guard down. That's what I meant. Back to regular me.
And while the plot is that the widows are highly deadly trained assassins, it is implied that Dreykov sexually assaulted them, at least a few of them, which would make the whole pheromone thing make that much more sense and be that much more creepy and heavy and sickening and just... I don't know who thought of that. They're brilliant, but I'm scared of them. And I love that on the brink of death, as her abuser is escaping, Nat's priority is to download all of the files of all of the girls that are involved in this ring in order to eventually free them from control. Like, the building's caving down around her, everything's on fire, her abuser is getting away, Dreykov is getting away, but he's just some insignificant man. Let's download everything we can about all these girls and see if we can save them. And the sever the nerve thing is the most iconic Black Widow moment, if not one of my favorite moments in any Marvel film. I want to go back and touch on the abuser aspect of it because I feel like we've just been ignoring that Alexei sold them back into human trafficking. This man sent you back to the Red Room, and then we get a few funny moments of telling him to shut up and like hitting him in the face or whatever in the beginning, and then we just quickly move on and suddenly he's like this quirky father figure. Melina, at least I can sort of understand because she was still heavily under mind control, and also she was shot and bleeding out while the girls were being sold back into trafficking. And later when she tried to turn them into the Red Room, she also was still heavily under mind control. So when I say a forced found family dynamic, I don't mean that they didn't mesh well as a family. I think they did. I think the forced aspect aspect comes from they were parents for like 3 years, but then they sold you into trafficking. They gave you back. They could have run. I know they probably would have been shot dead, but they could have done something, anything, to try to prevent these young children, this 6-year-old, and I don't know how much older Nat is supposed to be, I think 12, these children back into trafficking, human trafficking. That's where the forced part of found family dynamic comes from. Cool idea, very poor execution. Side note, it's really fun that David Harbour is slowly being typecast as like man in Russian prison. Love that for him. I would like to express my frustration, though, that this is considered a girl movie, because of course it is. The leads are women. It's not just a great movie, it is one of the best Marvel movies I have ever seen, and I stand by that. It's beautifully shot, the story is provoking, the characters are engaging, and you get to see very realistic character development, again, aside from selling children into trafficking and then like wanting to pretend to be your parents later on. But they like didn't think it was that bad. They thought it was for a better cause and they were under control of Dreykov. It's very nuanced. Anyway, characters are engaging and it has a very important message about trafficking that I think everyone should see. And for example, the line that is still so chilling, like deep into my bones as a woman to hear, is something along the lines of that something the world has too much of is girls, that we're just expendable, there's too many of us. And that's how it feels a lot of the time, being a female, being a woman. You do feel, I don't know, like you matter less. I think that was a very chilling line, but I think it was important to be in there and to be spoken to a powerful woman who went through that mind control, went through the Red Room, came out of it a better person, came out of that mindset to see that no, every single one of these women has just as much value as any other human being. They're not expendable. They're not a product to be collected and sold for a profit. I could talk about that for forever, but this video is about the movie, not about human trafficking. But it also, you can't talk about this movie without talking about human trafficking, which I love. I think that's so cool because it's not only a fun movie, not only an engaging movie, but a movie with an important message that's not crowbarred into there to like shove it in your face. It's like, this is real and you have to face it in order to watch this movie, but it fits, it's cohesive, it does not feel forced. And speaking of like women being involved, I love that the final boss, so to speak, the Taskmaster, is a woman. It would be a little exhausting if all the villains were men. It would just be like, oh, women fighting men. Women are more powerful than men. No, this is something within our own kind that we need to deal with, right? Women fought against women nearly to the death the whole movie, but also women saved those same women from slavery. Women were villains and saviors. And then there's that like healing moment of the forehead touch between Natasha, the woman who tried to kill Dreykov's daughter, and Dreykov's daughter, Natalia. Natalia, the woman who was mind controlled and forced to try to kill Natasha, had that moment of the foreheads where Nat just apologizes. Heartbreaking. And then Natalia's only response is he gone? So powerful. All the forehead touches in the movie just speak to me, and that's an indication of a female director. Bellissimo. The hero and the supposed villain, she's not really the villain, Dreykov is the villain, but the hero and the villain at the end of the story sharing a forehead touch, nature is healing. Now just some minor details in the movie that I think are fun to talk about. When I posted on my Instagram story asking if someone had any thoughts about the movie that they wanted me to touch on, one thing specifically was not needing aspirin. That got me, dude. They got thrown around like rag dolls. Way more than I've ever seen, or at least remember seeing in any other Marvel movie. I don't mean like fight scenes. I've seen the hero get absolutely whooped by a villain in a movie. That's not what I mean. Major car crashes, falling off a whole building, hitting several things on the way down, landing on concrete, no bones broken. Hello? There is a theory that in the Red Room, the widows go under a similar experiment that they did to like Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So they might have like a version of that serum in their system, which would make a lot of sense, and I kind of wish they'd tossed that in. They already said that Natasha and the other widows are picked based on genetics, but I think that would be interesting. But I also like that she's just that powerful as a human being. I like that that's that she's just human. Or maybe it's not even a theory, I think it's in the comic books, but we're talking about the cinematic universe. Another great detail is that all of their hair was pulled back out of their faces. It's not just into a ponytail, into a bun, let's get moving, like slicked back kind of military. I think the braids were iconic, but a touch of femininity. Same with the earrings. You can conveniently fight the villains and maintain your femininity, without being sexualized. It just reinforces the fact that being feminine and being sexy are not the same thing. They never need to coincide, ever, if you don't want them to, depending on how you express your femininity. But you can easily have one without the other. Real quick, speaking of hair, by the way, there's no way that Natasha got that perfectly pale blonde from box dye. I know for a fact she tried to do it herself. Her hair got fried and orange, and she had to go to a salon to get it corrected, and that's why it's so short. She had to get it chopped off because she fried her own ends. To go back to the sexualization topic, though, they were way less sexualized in this movie. Yelena's white jumpsuit was more loose-fitting, but not like excessively baggy to where it would get in the way. It just fit in a comfortable way. And she also gets to wear her little vest, and I love that for her. Same with Nat having her hair out of her face. She's not constantly having to like flip it in like a sexy way. And her outfit had a little more give and a little more bulk, so it was more tactile and less just a tight black leather suit that has no function. Also, Natasha's very sexy. Nothing wrong with being sexy, just tired of being only sexy. One thing that made me very excited in the theaters that I had to prevent myself from like shouting out about is all of the callbacks to things that were said in the first Avengers movie, which were mostly things that Loki said to her, which interesting touch considering that Loki has his TV show going on at the exact same time Black Widow came out. So there's the ledger is dripping, gushing red, something Loki said to her, and then Alexei says it to her. Thank you for your cooperation. That was probably one of my favorite moments from the entire Avengers movie when it came to Black Widow. I fell in love with Black Widow in the first Avengers movie, even when she wasn't at her peak. Peak? Like a widow's peak? I'm sorry. Like, I knew when I watched it that she had something special about her that I couldn't wait to see explored further. Obviously, Joss Whedon was not ever going to do that. Avengers made me love her. Black Widow made me fully understand why I loved her. The last thing to really discuss, I think, is the post-credits scene. I never fully understood Hawkeye hate. The first Avengers movie, I liked Hawkeye. I think he was fun, but then I think his character just got ruined later on. Again, thank you, Joss Whedon. I never fully understood the hate until now. It's mainly the writer's fault, though, for taking a cool idea of a character and just absolutely butchering it in Age of Ultron, along with everyone in that movie, honestly. So after contributing nothing since the first Avengers movie, I can't wait to see him get absolutely wrecked by Yelena. I would let her kill me. I will say that I wouldn't change who died in Endgame purely because I don't think Natasha deserves to live with the grief and the guilt of letting Clint die in her place. I think that would be one thing she may never move on from because of how much of a debt she felt she owed him and just how she perceives herself too. She would blame herself for that forever. She got to die believing that she was the hero, a good person who finally made up for all the wrong that she did. No less tragic though. Also, I just refuse to believe that she's dead for good. Thank you, multiverse theory. I want to watch this movie over and over and over again, but I cannot keep spending money to go to theaters, so I guess I'll wait for it to come out on Disney+. Oh, shoot. I guess, okay, fine. I will briefly talk about the lawsuit to my understanding, which is not much. To my understanding, Scarlett Johansson's contract with Disney said that they would have a theater-only rollout before it went on streaming services. I don't know if they specified how long. It could have just been a weekend or a week, but there was supposed to be a theater-only rollout. I personally believe that that should be the case with every movie. I know we are in unprecedented times. If you're gonna do a dual release, I think that the streaming should count towards the box office, because unfortunately it shows that Black Widow did not perform well in box office, but I know for a fact that Black Widow was well loved by everyone who saw it and that a ton of people went and watched it. A ton of people watched it either at home or at a theater. Some people pirated it because of course they did. I think if it did not release on a streaming service and there was no COVID, it would have blown up. It would have had to travel by word of mouth, much like Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey was a great movie that got cut short by the pandemic. I think if it had had a chance to have its opening weekend, everyone go see it, the people who were already planning to see it, love it, tell everyone, hey, it's so good, you gotta go see it, then I think it would have done incredible in the box office. It had to. It was such a good movie. It would had to have done good. But because Disney did their rollout the way that they did, it cut back on box office sales. I think it's a matter of principle. I mean, obviously, she's got money. Scarlett Johansson does not necessarily need the money, but it's the principle of the thing. It's what they promised that they did not uphold. And then it just keeps putting female movies down over and over and over again. We get screwed over, whether by a godforsaken pandemic that no one could have predicted, so like fine, I'll let that one slide, or the way they roll the movie out, or like another example with Birds of Prey is how they advertised it was not at all what the movie was even like, so it deterred people from watching it. If we could just treat female movies with like a micro amount of respect, it's not even about the money, it's about the future of filmmaking for women. I know I keep coming back to that, but as a woman who is like kind of in the film industry, I'm just a little rat PA, but I want to get further up in the film industry and have a name for myself. I'm sick of watching stuff like this. I'm sick of watching it get just shoved down like it doesn't matter, because it does. It matters so much that I don't really have the capacity in me to start discussing it now. You know, I've been filming for a minute here, and it's meant to be about Black Widow, so I will kindly step off my soapbox now. Maybe that's a topic for another day for someone who is better educated than myself, because I'm just speaking based on feelings right now and what little information I do have about the lawsuit. I'm Team Nat on this one. I'm Team Scarlett Johansson, so get them. Rip them a new one. Do it. Someone's got to, eventually. I would love if it was her. I would love if, just like in Black Widow, she took down this monolith. I mean, no one can really take down Disney by themselves, but can at least, like, force them to behave a little better. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have thoughts on Black Widow, definitely leave them in the comments. Yell at me about how I was wrong, or praise me for being correct, because I am. I sell pins on Etsy. Please help me get rid of them. I'm sick of having them. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, freaking, what the heck, dude? You just sat here through this whole video and you're just gonna leave me hanging? You're gonna ghost me? I stream on Twitch. I play a myriad of games, always open to suggestions. Been playing Subnautica lately. Still Legend of Zelda, because I freaking love Legend of Zelda. Dead by Daylight, which is my favorite game to play, but no one likes to watch me play it, so please, for the love of God, if you like Dead by Daylight, please watch me play Dead by Daylight. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I put my foot in my mouth again.